Okay, so we covered these items in the previous video, and now we'll move on to making a new topo surface, and then we'll look at some view options for that topo surface. So let's go back into Revit, and here was our floor plan, which we inserted the raster image. Now I'm just going to hit ZZ, zoom in a little bit, and what I want to do now is just to draw a box around the area of the site that we think we are more likely to be modeling. Okay, we don't want to model the whole city. We just want to be slightly more focused on what we are, what we're kind of concerned with in terms of environmental simulation. So I'm going to go up to the Annotate tab here, and Revit, the understanding in Revit is that if you're drawing something which is not a three-dimensional element, then Revit will call that an annotation. And so that could be lines, that could be dimensions, text, some shading, and Revit distinguishes that from model information by calling it annotation. And very important, because bearing in mind that in a practice environment you're sharing three-dimensional model information, and you don't necessarily want to be sharing with other design consultants all of your dimensions or your lines. Okay, so we're going to use the detail line tool here. Click on that. When we select that, it changes the contextual palette here to give us some different options. And I'm going to choose the rectangle. And let's draw a rectangle around the area of site that we're interested in. I'm going to start here, and let's go to about here. What I'm actually doing here is roughly placing that over the Ordnance Survey grid squares on the map, which you probably can't see terribly clearly on your screens, but I'll zoom in. So we'll click there. We've drawn a box, but we didn't do it accurately. What you can then do in most tools in Revit is you then go back in and you click on the dimensions, and then you can just type in that dimension to make it more accurate. So I'll change that to 300,000, or in other words 300 meters. Click in the other one. Let's do the same. Change that also to 300,000. The command's complete. We can either now hit return or escape, or often you find yourself just hitting the modify tool to confirm the command. Okay, so we've drawn that, but we didn't place it accurately. So what I'll do, just zoom in a bit, ZZ on that corner. You see, there's our rectangle. It didn't quite hit the grid square. Not that it really matters too much for our purposes, but let's just select that rectangle. We hit the modify tool. Now, when you hover over an element in Revit, it will turn it blue, as you can see there, just to say that that's what you would be selecting if you hit the left click on your mouse. And what you might notice is what it's doing by default is it's offering us just one of those lines at a time, and often that's very useful because you can just pick up one element and edit it. We want to select all those elements, and there is a shortcut which is Tab. So you see when I hit Tab there, it changed to all of those elements, or if I right click, it does offer us select joined elements there. So a couple of useful tools there. I'm just going to come back out of that, use Tab to select. So I've now selected that object, and I'll come up here to the Move tool, or MV, which is the shortcut. Just going to zoom in a bit there, and if I select the move tool, it's offering us snaps. I'm sure you're familiar with this if you've used other CAD packages. So it's offering me a snap to that corner. It's not snapping to this intersection here because that's just a raster image, but click there and it will move it close enough. ZE, zoom extents. There's our square rather that we've drawn, and just zoom in, ZZ. I think that's probably kind of reasonable amount of sight, possibly a bit too much, but anyway, let's just work on that basis for now. So that's just a line just to say what sort of sight area we want. Right, so we're ready now to start making our topo surface. So we go to the Massing and Sight tab here, click on that, and it brings us into a range of tools which are all about massing and sight. And in other words, it's distinguishing here from, you're not modeling sort of architectural elements, you're not modeling detailed components of buildings, but you're modeling more kind of buildings in an urban setting, or what Revit calls conceptual massing. So in other words, when you don't really have a detailed building, but you have an idea about size and form. And we are going to come back to this later on in the course when we start looking at conceptual massing in terms of energy analysis. Okay, but for now we are purely interested in this video with Topo Surface, and that's the command for it. Now what I'll do, I'm just going to, first of all, we're going to use that surface tool, and I'm just going to quickly do it, and I'm going to sort of show you a slightly problematic way of using it. So we click on Topo Surface, and what it's asking us to do is to place points. So by default, the easiest way, in many ways, is just to start clicking points on your surface at the correct elevation, and it will start to make the surface from that. Now, when I say I'm going to do it wrong, all I've done is I've not changed the view at the moment, and as I start clicking points along here, Revit will start to make this topo surface for me, but because I've not changed the view settings, what you're seeing is happening is as it creates that surface, it's obscuring the view of my map, and that just means I can't accurately click on points. So I'll undo that in a moment, but just a few other things to show you here. Because I'm in the middle of a command here, the particular command that I'm using is highlighted in this sort of light blue up here, and it's giving me a finish or a cancel option here. Now what will probably catch you out a few times in Revit is you start a command like that, and then you start thinking about something else, and you go into another tab such as architecture here, and everything's grayed out, and you're sort of thinking, what's happening? I can't do anything, I'm frozen out, why won't it let me have any of these? And that's because you're in the middle of this command. So if I go back to that tab, and I'll actually just cancel that, and it gives me a warning just to say that you're about to lose what you were just doing. So we'll just say yes. So we just cancel what we were doing there. Okay. Let's just have a quick look now at a few view settings, and then we'll go back in and we'll make that initial topo surface. So let's come down here to the bottom left of your window. You've got scale. You can change that scale. Let's change that to 1:500, which is probably a much more sensible scale for making a site. It's only a view scale. It's not changing the model. You can always go back. Then under here, we've got detail level, coarse, medium, or fine. And Revit keeps this fairly simple, but depending on what you're doing, do you want a fine level of detail, a coarse level, or a medium? And there are some more kind of in-depth settings where you can start to define the defaults here, but we'll just stick to these. We'll leave it in coarse for now, because we're not doing a detailed model, we're doing a site model. And the next one is your visual style. Okay, this is the one we wanted. Click on that, and as I'm sure you're familiar with from other packages, wireframe, hidden line, shaded, consistent colors, realistic, different ways of viewing your model. Now I'm just going to change that to wireframe, just so that when I start modeling that topo surface, it will actually let me see through it. Okay, I'm going to leave the other view settings along here for now, and we'll come back to those in another session. Right, so just about ready to start modeling our surface, but I just want to check that we understand what our contour levels are. Now, I just find that level over here, 103 meters. Follow that across. That's telling me that contour there is at 105 meters. The next one there, 110, 115. And that is useful to know. Right, let's go back and let's start the topo surface again. Again, it's defaulting to the place points here, which is what I want to do. And I'm going to place some points along that 105 meter contour. And over here we need to tell Revit what elevation are these points, which I've already got typed in there at 105. It's an absolute elevation, so it's an elevation above sea level, which is correct. And I'm just going over here and I'll zoom in a bit now, clicking on a few of those points. And I'm not too worried at the moment about being sort of hugely accurate. We can add points. You can do them in any order. Quite a good tool in that respect. So we've started our surface there. It doesn't look like very much. Let's add some more points along the next contour. So go back here. Change our elevation to 110 meters or 110,000 millimeters. And that's our next contour. And let's start clicking. See a bit there. Clicking a few points along that contour. Okay. I'm just zooming in and out a bit here. The thing to bear in mind is your contour information for a site this big is not sort of accurate to the nearest 100 millimeters. This is information that will, it's probably accurate to the nearest half a meter, perhaps, no more than that. So no need to get too sort of concerned about pinpoint accuracy here. Let's put a few more points on there. We are going to clean this up afterwards, by the way. So you're probably noticing that I've gone over the edge of my site square, but we'll trim that off later. Right, that was our 110. Let's go up to the next one, which is 115. and which is this contour, and let's start clicking some points along that. I'm sort of rushing a bit here, isn't I? Clicking some points, and what the tool is doing is it's making a logical surface which is linking all those points together. Okay, next one. I think I'm probably modeling too much here, but it doesn't matter. Next one is at 120 meters, which is this contour. And I'm clicking, and I know I'm rushing, isn't I? Clicking along that contour there. Slightly lost sight of where that contour is. I think that was right. Okay. Next one. Okay, I'll speed up a bit here. You don't need to, if you don't want to sit watching me clicking points. Click, click, click. Okay. We're getting there. We'll go to the next contour up, because although it's off the edges of our model, you do need to input that information, or as you can see, it's just leaving the top level flat. I'm just clicking along that next contour there. Okay, that's all looking pretty good, except at the bottom end we're rather lacking some information. So I think we'll go back down to the 100 meter contour, typing that in there, which is this one. Yeah. Add that in. We've still got a little bit there. I'll just zoom in. Well, we've not got enough information to fill our site, so we'll just drop down again one more to the 95 meter contour, which I think, can't quite see it. I'm assuming that's the, not sure if I've got those, I might have got those contours slightly wrong there. It doesn't matter for the purposes of this. Zoom out a bit. There's our square. So that's looking pretty good to me. So I'm going to accept that surface. Okay, so that's our topo surface. Obviously it doesn't look like it because we're viewing this in a plan view. Right, let's go to our project browser. In fact, I'm just going to hit save there, just in case we were to crash. Okay. Let's have a look at 3D view. So we go over here into our project browser under 3D views. By default, Revit creates you one 3D view. There it is. Doesn't look like much at the moment, but if I pan around that, you can just about make out that it is a three-dimensional surface. Zoom in a bit so you can see that. Okay. ZE zoom extents. There's our, so that is a three-dimensional surface, and I'll just, what I will do is just go back, tidy up the edges of that, and then we'll look at a few different view controls. So back into our level 3. Oops, right. Back into that. Let me just do WT, Windows Tile. Just close down that one. There's our level 3. Now, we don't actually need this site topo, the sitemap anymore, but rather than deleting it, I'll just hide it. So I'll click on it there, and if I right click, we get hide in view. We could hide in view by elements, so it would just hide it. Or with it selected, we go up to the top. Here we also have hide in view. Okay, so hide it by elements. So in other words, it will just hide that one element. If you were to hide by category, you could hide a whole number of elements within the same category. So for example, you could hide all the doors or all the walls. We just hide it by element. So that's hidden away. I'll show you in a minute how you can get that back. There's our surface. I just want to clean up those edges, so I just want to chop it off basically along our square. If I go here to go back to the massing and site tab, and what we want to do is the split the surface. Okay, click on that, and I'll just let that mouse stand still for a minute. You get these little helpful tools. Select a surface to split. There's our surface, and it's changed now into a modify split surface tool here at the top, and it's saying basically, it's just asking, can you draw some information so that to tell me how to split this model. And what I'm going to do is use a rectangle, and I'm going to simply draw along the rectangle that we drew earlier. You could do that by picking points as well, but draw along that rectangle. So we have this sort of pink square now defining where I want to split the surface, but I need to accept and finish the edit mode. Click on that little tick. Okay, it doesn't look like it's done anything, but if I select the one side of that line, that is now a separate surface from the inside, and I'm just going to select that outside bit and delete it. You can do that by hitting the delete key on your keyboard, or DE, or that little X there. So that's now deleted those sort of messy bits. Go back into our 3D view, and and you should now be able to see when I pan that is our three-dimensional surface, and I've just tidied it up into a sort of square shape. Okay, so it's going to we'll just finish off this short video there, and then in the next video we'll look at some different ways of viewing the model, and we'll move into some more tools in terms of modifying that surface.